What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Helpful Hubs. This is episode number 7, I believe. My name is Joffrey. I'm one of the Helpful Hubs, and joining me on the line is Felix. How's it going, Felix?
The other one. I'm doing super fine. We are both sick, unfortunately, but we apologize in advance for our voices.
Yeah,
get used to it.
We're sick, and if you're an avid viewer of the channel, you might realize this is not my usual background. I'm on the road for the summer. So it's a bit of a scuffed setup. Hopefully that's okay. We want to keep providing content to you throughout the summer, so we've adjusted our setup, and hopefully, the show can go on.
Look at that. The Helpful Hubs sacrificing everything for you guys.
Literally a second job. We are gonna do something that we did before. So a couple weeks ago, we did we both came up with a list of like 10 sleeper or underplayed cards, and we compared these lists. And now we did the more difficult exercise, which is to give you a list of 10 cards that we think are overplayed. And I say it's more difficult because, if we tell you about like a random card that you've never seen, you're going to go like, oh yeah, I could see that card being underplayed. If we tell you a card that like you've been playing for months that you might feel very attached to, and we tell you, nah, this card is overplayed, you might have a very different opinion. So we'll see how it goes.
If this video gets like a tons of dislike, then we know we definitely had a little itch here.
Exactly. We know we struck a chord, basically. All right. Well, without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, Felix. I think last time in the underplayed cards, I made you start first. And I think it's only fair, if you're okay with it, that this time I'm the first one to jump into the pool.
This time you have to look like a fool.
Exactly. Well, also I think we might have some in common. I don't know. Again, we didn't compare lists, so it's possible we have very different views on the meta. It's possible I've put cards that you're very attached to in that list, and you're going to fight me hard for it. I'm not sure.
For sure. I made sure that I have a card that you will definitely have hard feelings about.
Okay.
Do you have a card in your list that we had on our sleeper list?
No. How would that work? It can't be underplayed and overplayed.
I'm just, making stuff up, I guess.
All right. Well, I'll get things started. I think one of the first card I'll give you that I think is overplayed is the Color Out of Space. Color Out of Space it was a great card from beta, still a good card, but I think we are currently in a meta where the real estate on board gets filled up really quickly, and so color is very easy to turn off these days. And I think we have enough options when it comes to dual sides or a flexible side like Valley of Delight that I don't think you should run Color Out of Space in your deck. The fact that you always have to be conscious of where it goes and whether your opponent can turn it off is a huge disadvantage. I want my stats to be able to go wherever I want, and I don't want to be constrained when I play them. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I do want to fight you over this because Color Out of Space is maybe my favorite artwork from the first set. So
okay, that doesn't matter.
Obviously. All right. Okay, fair. I can see it, honestly. You mentioned it earlier that compared to older metas, we see more sites in play. So we also see Void getting filled up, and therefore Color of Space is obviously a little bit less awesome as it was before. It still can make the difference, because I think the first thing that you're trying to achieve with your sites is fixing your threshold. So if you be able to cast a spell that you otherwise wouldn't be able to cast because you had the threshold for this turn, might be good enough for this turn. On the other hand, we don't really see too many free colored decks anymore. So it's mostly 2-color decks, and it's easier to fix those. So yeah, it's definitely, to be honest, I don't have it in any of my more competitive decks currently as well.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, give me something concrete. When was the last time you played Color Out of Space in one of your competitive decks?
That's fair. So yeah, I guess, goal for you, definitely.
So
a card that we don't see too much anymore.
like we're gonna go through cards, right? That we think are overplayed. That doesn't mean they shouldn't ever be played, right? It's just we think we see them too often compared to where they should be. I do think there are decks that should be playing Color Out of Space.
I have a deck. Sorry, I have to interrupt you. I played in my duplicator, and it's very important in my duplicator.
All right, my second card is going to be Duplicator then. No, like a deck that we've both played, in which I believe Color Out of Space is correct, is the Char Enchantress list, so Air Fire, because that deck was so demanding on the thresholds that having that extra copy of a Ruin was super important. But sometimes I see it in like the Necro list, or what did I say recently? Some Imposter list that play 2-color, and I'm like, I think it's super risky.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I think because of the reason that Imposter and therefore also Pathfinder and Pathfinder itself is very popular. It's not a card in these decks, so you don't see it in these decks at all. Same with the castles. So I guess you could make the argument for any avatar that really wants to make sure it is like demanding on threshold and it needs to cast its stuff on curve.
All right, I'll pass it over to you. Do you have anything similar? Do you want to do something completely different for yours?
Yeah, I was already mentioned it. I have the Carolyn upon Usk. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but we have someone who is probably more capable of doing that, or at least with the Joyous Guard. I don't know how to pronounce any of these castles. That's why I call them castles, right?
Yeah. So it's on my list as well. But do you have this one specifically, or do you group all of the tri-sites together?
I group them all together.
Yeah.
Basically for the same reason as you just mentioned. But there's one primary thing as well, and that is that you can't aggressively push them forward. And what you can still do this with the Color Out of Space. And sometimes, like fighting for the real estate on the board, you kind of need to push these sites in the very first row that you can put them in. For example, if you face a Ashimago that is on landmass, you really don't want to play your sites in the back row. Yeah. And castles kind of demand to do that. And we already talked about why this is not the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, so they share some of the disadvantages that Color Out of Space does. I think they're very popular, and given it looks like we're entering a pretty earth-heavy meta. You know, we did the top 8 review, and Washington was mostly water, Melbourne was mostly earth-fire. Like, if you have an opponent that plays Earthquake, and you're sitting on one of the castle, and you think you're protected because it's a water site, and you know you're putting your minion there because you think, oh, I'm gonna be safe from Bury or Cave In, and then they have the Earthquake, they bring it in the middle, they cut you off of mana, and then that site is no longer water and everything gets buried. It's brutal. And I would, just like Color Out of Space, I would recommend, again, I think it belongs in some lists, but not as often as we see them. I think some lists should be okay. And if you really are looking to get some fixing, just go Valley of Delight. It's fine. It's unlikely you really need both. And so Valley can do the work, and maybe you're going to be less exposed.
All right, full up approved.
So that was one of mine as well. I can still go because it's technically my turn, but at some point you might have to catch me up.
Shall I just go with one where I'm pretty sure that you don't have it on your list?
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
All right. I'm gonna go with an artifact. It's Book of the Dead.
Okay, you're right. I don't have it. Mostly because I don't see it that often. Do you see it played?
I see it played. Bunch of Necromancer have it in their list. Some Geomancer that I was facing earlier, even that they had it. Honestly, that was the reason why I picked it up. And Book of the Dead, it can obviously be pretty good if you're in a stale board state where you're each fighting for resources and there's like a back and forth, and you don't really get your opponent like down on card advantage. But I think like that's like most sorcery games are so tempo driven that you don't really have time for a Book of the Dead. Like it's the same argument some people do for the Omphalos they just generate value like the turn they or like the turn after they came in mostly. And Book of the Dead mostly doesn't do that, or at least it's asking for a little bit more things to happen. So Book of the Dead is just obviously just works with minions. If you compare it to an Amphalos, you have to have that minions in your graveyard. So it's like if your opponent plays Graveyard Hate, you're not guaranteed to get a trigger off Book of the Dead. So I can see the card being amazing in like certain situations, but in general, I think it's not as good as some people might think it is.
Yeah, it feels like Orb a little bit, where you really want to wait for a turn where you can play it and make use of it directly, but that's pretty hard for Book of the Dead. And with the number of swaps that are in the meta, like that feels so scary to me. Like I don't want to give my opponent one of my cards, first of all, but also let them have a minion on top of me because they swapped like their Luckbug Cat or whatever on top. So I feel that. Okay, I'm gonna give you, what am I gonna give you next? We did 2 sides. Let's do, yeah, we're gonna up the spice a little bit. I'm gonna give you Fail Mutation. Initial reactions.
Initially, like if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would be definitely no, this card is amazing. You want to play it in every water deck. But it slowly got out of my water decks as well, which is probably just due to the fact that Ashimago is not playing the way it used to be. And also the 4-drops are so contended in most water decks.
Yeah, so I'll give you my reasons. I think people know the cards exist, and they built a removal suite to be able to still get rid of a Failed Mutation. We see Archimago go back to Cave-In. We see Root Spider, so you can turn off its ability and then use a Bury or a Poison Nova or something like that. It's pretty easy to chump it, right? Like you can have a Foot Soldier or a Cemetery Rat or something, and so it's not really giving you much. And once you take all of that, it's essentially a vanilla 4 for 4. And I think there's so much better you can be doing in this meta. I think specifically what makes me think people should play it less is sometimes its ability actively hurts you. Like you can't swap a Failed Mutation, even if you wanted to, because it can't be targeted by magic. And if we're moving to like this mid-range meta where everyone plays big creature, I think a Failed Mutation just is a little bit too short. Like it would need a ward, so basically a stag, or it would need some kind of like immediate ability like the Succubus. Like right now you just play a Mutation and you hope that like, I don't know, your opponent doesn't have a grapple shot with their own 4-power minion to kill it or something. It feels too little for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, most removal is not really targeting based anymore, right? There's see mostly Call of Disease, Earthquake, stuff like this. So there's people don't run like double Infiltrate anymore to get rid of a minion, which is probably because we see so much warded minions in the meta.
Yeah.
That anything that targets is automatically a bit less good compared to back then.
I agree. I think that's actually maybe a better way to phrase it is if we didn't have ward, maybe these decks wouldn't play the removal that gets around ward, like Cave-In. But because ward exists, these decks are going to play these types of like removal that don't target. And so as a result, Failed Mutation doesn't provide you anything else than a ward would, except that like it doesn't have the ability to attack with its ward. It just have magic protection. It just feels like too little for me. So
yeah,
that's my take. All right, what do you got?
Great. All right, let me see. You said you're gonna up the spice. All right, I need to get one out of the way that I have in my list, and it really hurts me because it's the Hillock Basilisk.
Oh, I didn't expect you to put it in there.
I know. It's one of my favorite cards in general because it has a basilisk, and I really like the effect. I think it's cool. But you mentioned the card swap earlier, and I think in a heavy swap meta, Hillock Basilisk is such a nail biter that you often can't afford to, hey, play the Basilisk, disable your opponent's minion, and just hope for your opponent to not have the answer, because it's very binary. If your opponent has the answer, it goes down really bad most of the times. So Hillock Basilisk, unfortunately, doesn't have the comeback in this edition for me.
Yeah, I can see that. There are decks where I still like it, but I can see that still being overplayed because I think more decks play it than they should. I think where I like it most is probably AoA, because you have a lot of like options. You can deploy it pretty safely, and then move it, pretty much wherever you want on the board. But I've seen, imposter lists, Pathfinder lists play it, and for these, I feel like more often than not, you're getting, blown out by it.
I think the trap of Hillock Basilisk might be if you're more on a defensive kind of deck list and you play Hillock Basilisk to like give you a turn to breathe and hope that you don't get the damage in from the opponent. If you just compare it to a straight removal, like Infiltrate, for example, or something else in a different color, you maybe just want to get rid of the minion right away, because the floor is pretty deep and the ceiling is not that amazing with Basilisk. Even though it's like a cute mechanic and I like it, I wouldn't play it myself currently, to be honest.
And it's funny you mentioned Infiltrate, because if your opponent infiltrates your Basilisk, it feels so terrible, because it's going to provide its effect. It's going to be really hard for you to get rid of it. And they don't ever have to break stealth. That Basilisk is going to lock a portion of the map without you being able to do anything about it. And it's, Infiltrate is a popular card. And so it's a great segue into my next pick, Infiltrate. I think Infiltrate is overplayed. I think it's overplayed specifically in today's meta because there are so many spiders around. Everyone is ready for anti-stealth. Everyone has ways to disable minions. It can be a root spider. It can be a gargantula that's like highly played. It could be Babbling Brook. Water is still, very much played, and often they have 3 Babbling Brooks. Everyone has access to a collection. It's very easy to put some anti-stealth things in a collection. I don't know. Infiltrate for me doesn't do it anymore. I think it still belongs in some decks, but I don't think it should be played as much as it is now. Like, for example, I don't like it in Archimago. And I know a lot of people play 1-2 copies, and sometimes it feels great. I think in general, people should play it less. If you're Monofire, that might be your only option for removal, and I can see it. But often, if you're a second color, you could use that second color for your removal options, and you shouldn't rely on an Infiltrate.
Yeah. So I would bring the same argument that I had for Basilisk. I don't like it in defensive decks. I do like it in aggressive decks. Just imagine your opponent plays the big creature to block your creature that is attacking, and you just infiltrate it. You get in your attacks this very turn, and even if you Babbling Brooks it next turn, it doesn't feel too terrible. But I can see if you're behind on board and you have just an Infiltrate to rely on it, that's not too amazing.
Yeah. Hyper aggressive deck, I can see it. Monofire, I can see it, because that's basically removal. That's the best removal you can have access to, basically. But some of the decks, like Archimago, don't think we should.
Yeah, fair.
All right, what you got next?
All right. All right. I have another card. It's not even played that much, but I still see it, and it is the Philosopher Stone.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably you don't have it in your list, I would assume.
I don't think it's played enough. Like, I went for like very, very popular cards.
Yeah, so also maybe that's another cluster here with the stones. Stones, not so much. I think there are like certain decks, Sorcerer, for example, that can afford to play them. But it's still, sometimes I see, like I was playing Druid last week and he had the whole package of stones and cores. And I think the reason why his deck doesn't really perform that well was because he was drawing into 2 of these mana rocks. And especially Philosopher Stone. We're living in a meta we already mentioned. We don't really play like 3-colored decks currently. It's mostly 2-colored, or maybe even monocolored. So Philosopher's Stone doesn't really have the big advantage, like compared to in the beginning of Sorcery, when we had the 3-color Death Speaker, where you were able to play like multiple turns just because of the Philosopher's Stone. Right now, it's just basically a discount of 1. So you're like 1 turn ahead, and it doesn't provide the threshold. Most of the more powerful cards, they are at least 2 thresholds, maybe even up to 4 thresholds. So you won't be sometimes you won't be even able to cast those spells just because you're missing the threshold. And please don't help me with that.
And I would say in today's meta, a discount is worse than a mana. Like, I'd rather have an extra mana than a discount for 1. Because the discount is not going to help you pay for abilities. And we actually now have abilities that are pretty good mana sinks, right? So if you're an imposter, you'd much rather have a core because you could maybe get to 3 mana on turn 2 and mask up Pathfinder. If you have Mother, Maiden, Crone, you'd much rather have the mana than the discount because you can use it to draw cards, right? And so I am much more in favor of the cores these days than the Philosopher Stone. I think also the changes that they did around like interacting with the realm and dropping artifacts means you can't really do the cute things of like, oh, I'll drop my stone and this wizard will pick it up, and now he's going to be using the stone with all the resetted discounts. So yeah, I think for me, stone should almost never be played unless you really have like a 3-color like enchantress and a speaker build, but those are pretty rare these days.
Maybe some elementalist. We saw the very last season of the Ira League before Gothic dropped. We saw I don't remember the player, to be honest, but the knight deck was playing all the knights.
Yeah, henchman. I remember. I lost.
Oh yeah, just casually bring it up here.
Yeah, casually.
Well, at least you made it there. Yeah, maybe an elementalist, but don't play Please Don't Love.
One thing is with the knights, they burn your discounts. If you play like a 3-color knight, you've just burned your discount for these 3 colors, right? So yeah.
True.
We talked about Wizard. It's a great segue into my next one. I think Grandmaster Wizard is overplayed. It used to be like a massive staple and a reason to be in air. I think the cards are too efficient these days that taking your late turn, so turn 6, 7, 8, off to draw 3 cards is really hard to do in today's meta. It's potentially risky to even have Grandmaster Wizard in your deck because of Pied Piper or a King of the Realm. So you could be sitting on that, way to refill your hand and not being able to play it because it would immediately be controlled by your opponent. We still see some decks playing Powers of Bliss, so you could potentially have a 0-power minion that does nothing in hand. I think it's just too many factors that for me, I wouldn't want to play Grandmaster Wizard in almost any of my deck. The exception is maybe a Death Speaker Jhin combo deck. But I think there's a reason why Archimago dropped air is Grandmaster Wizards are not that attractive anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, you forgot to mention the big one, Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah, totally right. You don't want your Grandmaster to be demoted to an apprentice and drawing you just the one card.
Exactly. The density of effects that will just prevent Grandmaster Wizards doing his thing are just too high. Or at least too high in the meta. You just mentioned like basically every water deck has all the tools to just don't make it happen. Water is so prominent right now. I can see it. I do like it in the Enchantress list because it's mostly a May ability of the Falling Star.
Yeah, maybe. It's fringe. Yeah. I tried. I don't love it. It's pretty meh for me. All right, what you got next?
Right. Grandmaster is also one that it's a mortal. I have another mortal, and it is Aino.
Ooh. It was close. It was probably like number 11 or 12 for me. All right. Okay. Why do you not like Aino?
It's hard to... I don't really talk too much crap about her because I think it's still... Like, if you have it in your deck, it's not... You're not doing terribly wrong with that, but it didn't really promise to be as amazing as everybody thought in the beginning. And it's really hard for... It's honestly, it's just... Currently, it's based on a feeling. It's not really... I can't really tell you any... Like, the one thing that I think we talked about Sorcery being so tempo heavy, and Aino is just a little bit too slow. And also, like, just a free power body for free that does free damage every other turn. again, in like a board state at a stall, it can help a little bit, but I think otherwise games are just in those early turns. You're really fighting for the battle crown, and Aino doesn't really do that. And you want to play something that is helping your A game, like either have a minion that is blocking or have a minion that is constantly attacking, or like do whatever your archetype is asking you to do. And Aino is like something in between. Like, she's not the end of the world if you play her on. Like, she can be good, but I think mostly if you just have a Sacred Oak, the Sacred Oak dude will be
doing more for you.
A little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I think she gets in most lists because there isn't that many really good 3 mana minions in water. You have the Logbook Cat, you have the Oak, and then the Nixie, but they don't like. It's rare that you play Nixie on 3. Often you wait until it gets something. So, Aino helps like bring that number up a little. But I agree that she's not fantastic. It's also very linear, right? Like, you know exactly what's gonna happen with Aino. You can play a Root Spider under your feet because you know where she's gonna go next, or you can catch her right after she's
currently also, as you said, like very linear, and there's not amazing ceiling with her. It's not like Rule of Fools with Plague of Frogs potential kind of stuff. It's 3 damage, maybe 4.
Do you think we should see Maddening Bells Aino in the future? Stealthy Ine on top of your opponent. That used to be the dream for AoE,
Yeah.
Just leaving that out there.
We talked about Maddening Bells, trying to make this card amazing since forever.
All right.
It's not very binary. Sometimes it's great. Mostly it's not.
You gave me Aino. I can give you another water card. Actually, I can give you another water 3 mana card. I'm going to give you Fey Changeling. Have you been playing that card recently?
Really? Yeah, well, I was playing against it, and it was... Well, I think we have a little disagreement on that one.
Okay, so I'm gonna preface my comments by saying I think it deserves to be played in certain lists. I think if you have a much better late game than your opponent, or if generally you're like skewing towards mid-range plus or borderline control, it can be in your deck. The deck that I have in mind that loves this card is Air Water Imposter, because often you're going to be behind in the early game because Air Water doesn't have like a super solid early game. And so sometimes you'll just bounce there like Koliki or Unicorn or something on turn 3. But it's also a Genesis minion. And so, you're probably going to have Death Speaker in your collection if you're Imposter. And that's a really good trick that you can bring back for a turn if you're Death Speaker and you're facing a problem that you don't have an answer to yet. Where I don't like it is when Necros play it. Because I think Necro, you're often the aggressor. And sometimes you'll have like hands where you can go all gas, and then you'll draw like a Fey Changeling, and it's not going to feel great. Like maybe you'll remove a blocker and you can continue being all gas. But like, let's say your opponent, you started aggressively, maybe you had like an early Wendigo or something. Your opponent got rid of it, managed to clear the board, and you want to reapply pressure immediately, and then you draw a Fey Changeling, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so I don't love it in Necros, and Necros still play it sometimes 2 or 3 copies. I think it should be 1 or 0.
All right, I think you recovered with the last sentence of the it should be 1 or 0. I agree on that for sure. I do think it has a spot in Necromancer, but I treat it more as a spell instead of a minion. If you like compare it to like Infiltrate kind of spell, you have a minion spell that will just keep making you win. You have the Luckbook Cat and like maybe like 2 skeletons or whatever, or they're beating your opponent. He plays this amazing blocker, and Fey Changeling will definitely get rid of the blocker because it like doesn't care about stealth, doesn't care about war, any of that nonsense. You just keep stomping. But I definitely wouldn't never play more than 2, probably just play 1 copy.
But then by then it's like, it's 1 out of 60. Like, how do you make that a reliable thing, right? I don't know.
Well, that's true with any unique, right? So
Yeah, but unique, you don't have a choice. It's like, I'd rather play 1 than 0. A Fey Changeling is like, well, if you like it in some cases, why not 2? Why not 3?
that's but I mean, I compare it to Infiltrate. You don't want to play like 4 Infiltrates if you could, if you know what I mean. You want
Sure.
to be on the 1 or 2, and I treated it like something like that with the Fey Changeling. But I mean, I can. Yeah, I don't know. It is definitely. It can be like such a bummer as a late game draw.
Yeah.
But as are most of the free drops. Like I don't like.
Well, cats. You don't mind a cat on turn 7, right? You just put it somewhere far away from your opponent's avatar if they're in control.
But I mean, if you have enough time for the cat, then yeah. But otherwise, the cat is also not a card that will like swing around the game on turn 8, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, what do you have next?
All right, I have Let's stay in water. My last water card. It's the Maiden Mother Crone.
Ooh, you know what? I've actually gone up on that card, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I never really liked the card initially, to be honest. So maybe I haven't really played it enough. But every time when my opponent dropped the card, I was like, all right, cool. At least it's not something that is actually threading here my board state. I think Maiden Mother Crone healing free might be a little bit undervalued. Maybe that's the best part of the card, but the draw spell for 3 mana ability comes in not as often as it has to happen to make the card good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Once again, if you're like in a board state where you're like slow and like it's a little bit stale, you don't really. It's not going like in any direction. And Maiden Mother Crone can be okay, but it's still like a huge commitment. You play a card. Mostly, you won't be able to draw another card right away because it's just like how most of the mono water decks don't really function. Maybe in Pathfinder, but Necromancer never really has the mana for it. Death Rite, well, whatever. Well, again, can be great in certain situations. It's a little bit less it's not enough for me for a 5 mana free water threshold unique.
I see it like Baldassar. It's like if it hits the board, it's pretty easy to get rid of it, but you have to get rid of it. And water has such a high density of these cards where it's like, you need to get rid of it, otherwise it's going to be a problem. That at some point one of them is going to go unanswered. And if that's a Mother Maiden Crone, you can start drawing sites for turn a lot more, scale up to like 7, 8, 9 mana and start refilling your hand, right? I don't hate it for that.
Yeah. It's also a little bit of a number because most of the decks have like Garden of Eden. That would be like an argument for me as well.
Yeah, but then you go draw side for turn, gives you more mana, pay 3, draw a card. I agree it's not amazing, but
yeah. I think it's like really easy to make artificial situations up where Maiden Mother Crone is like great, but I think it's just not
in practice.
It's happening.
Like,
it's not happening that often. And I'm already like, my opinion on Lilith is also, I think even Lilith is a little bit overplayed, and I think Lilith is the better card compared to Maiden Mother Crone.
Yeah, I can see that. They're very similar in the way that like they're not that hard to get rid of because 3 power for 5 mana, but they both need to be answered. And I think Lilith might need to be answered a bit more than Mother Maiden Crone.
Agree.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
And you get it provides something maybe right away because it's like end of turn trigger and Maiden Mother Crone. You definitely want to untap the card.
Yeah. All right. I can give you a water minion. This one I'm not entirely sure, but we'll try it. Sir Pelleas. I think Sir Pelleas should probably not be in Necro lists anymore, mostly because we've seen a lot of sinkholes and Heirloom Lost in the meta, and he's very easy to catch if you're not careful. Like, you deploy it in your back row, you think you're safe, and you wait for him to swing, and then your opponent gets a sinkhole in there, or a Heirloom Lost, or any other thing that would turn the water side off, and then you've just let a minion for basically for free. And even if he survives and he gets to attack, Like the 4 is nice, but ultimately it's still a 3 toughness minion for 3, and that's just not that great anymore.
Right, hot take. You're not supposed to play Sir Pelleas submerged. Maybe. I was thinking about it lately.
But then it's a worse cat.
Yeah, but you still get free movement that can be like nice.
It's a worse cat that has very high threshold requirements. Because if you want to play it on turn 3 when it's best, you need to have a very specific combination of 3 sides, right?
I think it was better before we had Ward and when Archimago land like Perilous Bridges.
I agree. It was great in AL, but I think his time has come.
Yeah, fair. I think you convinced me. I never really thought about it like that. I can see it being not as amazing as it used to be. And I had the same feeling about like, sometimes you just get it for free with Elon Lost. Sometimes it's just, it doesn't really feel as punchy as it was back then. Yeah.
I think there's enough movement now in Air Water with like Wuthering Heights and River Rapids, etc., that he's lost a lot of what made him special. Like you used to be able to play him in your back row and attack pretty much anywhere, but now you can do that with River Rapids or Wuthering Heights. So you might as well get that effect for free from your sites and play good statted minion. And 4-3 for 3 is no longer great stats. I think we're used to just 4 for 3 or 3 and a ward for 3. And so I don't know. It feels a little bit short for me.
Yeah, fair.
All right, what do you got next?
We had so many water cards.
I have one more. I'll have to go one more time into water.
One more, right? And I'm shifting already,
all right,
and that's because like we have the shift in the meta as well. So we have big Earth coming in, and a bunch of these big Earths as an answer to Necromancer, especially they were running or still do Returned King.
Ooh, is that the card?
That's the card. Yeah.
You think it's overplayed? Interesting. Okay.
I don't think. Well, all right. Here's my pitch. So, Returned King. It is. First of all, it's a 6 power minion, 6 costed minion with 3 power, which is not the best.
Sure.
Obviously, your undeads get +1 power. Fun fact: you don't really play any undead, so it's mostly like if your opponent plays undead, you gain control of them, and on top they get +1 power. But there are not that many undeads anymore. So
great silver bullet into Necros, right?
Is it? I don't know. It's like they run a few skellies here and there. They're mostly tapped, so you get like tapped minions. Mostly it's not like if you see the Necromancer games, it's not like they have like 5 skeleton tokens running around. They have like
it's a good
0
point.
to 3.
I think you've convinced me. I was also thinking. So there was a time where I had it in my Archie list.
Yeah.
And at the time, Dapperal Vampire was played a little bit more. It has kind of disappeared from the meta, right? Like, okay, AoA still plays it, but there was a point where Necro was playing it for the lifelink and survival into aggro. Some Necros still do, but generally has disappeared a little.
Yeah, I mean, mono red stack are not as popular as they used to be, and so Dapperal Vampire has to fight against 4 to even more powered warded minions. And
it also has Airborne, and these days I'm not sure Airborne is a good thing because a Koinixi can ask you to take a step diagonally on the thin ice. And because you're airborne, it means it can reach you like much easier, right? Like before, if you were diagonal to a thin ice and you don't have airborne, you're pretty safe. But in some situations, it's really hard for the vampire to do anything.
Yeah.
So
yes, that's a good point. And I think besides like what other undead cards do, like Infernal Legion, see some play here and there. I don't know, Hot Wheel. Some people, I don't know. It's hard for me to as an argument because it's good against Hot Wheel. It's not even good against it.
No. I don't think Hot Wheels is a
not really, right? Well, let me scroll through here. It's Nosferatu, ain't nobody playing that. Stygian Archers against
so I think Return King is good in AoA, against AoA, right? Because you're gonna have the vampire, you're gonna have the archers.
fair.
It's
Yeah.
it's okay maybe into Necro. You might snag a couple tokens, but it's not that great. To your point, there's usually gonna be one that's untapped, right? If they haven't been eaten by a Wendigo or a Gilman House or any other shenanigans. So
Is that what you expect from a 6-drop? Like, you know what I mean? Getting the free token on the avatars.
Yeah, you've convinced me. I agree. I think it's overplayed. All right, I'll finish water. My last water card is Into the Abyss. What do you think of the card?
It has to compete with so much stuff. So it is mostly a removal that is very expensive and not as flexible as you would think.
So my reason is it's a targeted removal, and for a targeted removal, it's too expensive. My bar for targeted removal is 3. That's like the bury, the drown. And this is one more. And I don't think Necro needs it as much as it's being played. They have polymorph if really there's something big. And then I think one of the big strengths of Necro is you can kind of cobble some removal together through your sides and your Nixies and Succubus and all of these force movement effects. Or grapple shot, and then it's a removal plus some reposition effect. And I think for me, Into the Abyss is too costly. I get it, like it's nice to have it, and you're like, oh, I can get rid of that thing for sure. But there's so many wards out there. It's just 4 mana is too much for that effect for me.
Yeah, and 0 flexibility, right? It's a removal every single time.
Yeah.
Not like swap, where swap can be whatever you want swap.
Yeah, swap can be a removal if you play around your Thin Ice or Trowbridge, etc. Grapple can just be direct damage if you don't need to remove something. And Into the Abyss is just a removal. It's just that's what it's going to be. It targets, so it doesn't get around ward. It can't snatch like a... Yeah, I don't like it.
Good thing, sometimes you even have to wait for your opponent to smack you at least once, so it's on the water side, because there's no void space left, or it's void or whatever. Yeah, no, definitely not as great as we
feel like we're aligned.
Nice. Yeah.
How many more do you have? I've lost count.
Same for me. We talked about Maiden, Crone, Return King. I think I have one more.
Okay.
I have 2. Well, I have 2 more.
I have 2 more as well, so you can go and then.
I start with the easy one because the last one I think we have to talk about.
My last one is also the spiciest, and you might hate it. Yeah.
That's the Koshai's egg versus Tabula Rasa. Everybody was waiting for. By the way, I think comments made clear that you won that one.
I know. I was not going to bring it up, but if you do.
Yeah. I was about to try to convince Matthias Frisk to make a comment. Pro Koshai deck. All right. My next one is 4 Waters of Paradise.
Oh.
As well as all the mixes.
Okay, that's spicy because I think they've gone up recently.
I know, and I think some decks now can afford to play them. I think before they were you never really wanted to play them, but I still think you shouldn't, honestly. Main reason is that they ask so much. They ask to be like mostly early to early mid in the game for you to be accessible, and you need an outlet. And your opponent needs to be like very vulnerable to whatever you want to do. And not just like play a bury, drown, like whatever removal effect to get rid of it. We don't have that many magic cards that you want to play before curve that have like a huge impact on the board.
Yeah, it's usually a minion, right? Like you want something that sticks. That's a problem for your opponent for multiple terms.
Exactly. And I don't really there's Dillman, the Doom of Dill, whatever that card, but the air one, I think that might be the only outlet that I can think of that is like actually like really, really good.
Yeah.
But besides that, I don't think like any other card Genesis or like come into play effect is mostly not just worth risking a 2-for-1 straight away.
Are there decks where you still like it?
So shout out, by the way, to the Ash Imposter crew that are currently brewing a very cool Fire Air Imposter deck. And they definitely had like great success with Mixed Ignis in their deck. And I played it as well, or I still play it. But like lately, well, first of all, can we play it? Because I think Imposter is like very mana hungry. So you have multiple turns where you want to sometimes even have like 10 mana available to like mask on a different mask and play 1-2 other cards. So their naturally mixes are great because they allow you to do so. And you can play stuff ahead on the board to make sure that your mask won't get put off easily.
It's kind of like, so we talked about Earthfire Imposter in this channel. One of the things it was trying to do is like protect its mask very early. This is basically another way to protect your mask. Is instead of being defensive, the best defense is a good offense. You try to drop a big problem for your opponent to deal with very early by chitting it out with a mix or 4 waters. And this should give you the space to then mask, Pathfinder, to go do your thing, and eventually recoup that card advantage that you lost by playing the mix. So there are decks where I still like mixes and 4 waters, but we've sometimes seen it in decks where I wouldn't play them. Like a Geomancer, I don't think has any business playing mixes or 4 waters. So I could see that, yeah.
All right, so mostly the loop will be you play a big thing, it gets removed, and you're out of cards. Your opponent is not. Save you some time here.
For my next one, I think you'll agree, and it's going to be a slam dunk for us. But I still see it a lot in deck lists. I think Guards is overplayed. I think it's overplayed for 2 reasons. First, it's super risky to play these days because they're Pied Piper, like Water and Earth are like the big dominant forces in the meta, right? Water has Pied Piper, Earth has King of the Realm. In both cases, if you drop a Guards and your opponent is sitting on one of these cards, it's so rough. Like King of the Realm is 18 damage right away, assuming you made a max tokens, right? The card costs 6. Like it doesn't help you survive in the early game. And if you want to make the most out of it, you have to take a step up. And actually, we have tons of things to do with our mana these days. There's tons of great card. If you're Imposter, you want to mask up. If you're Archimago, you want to go to 8. If you're Necro, you might want to draw more sites so you can find hate against your opponent. You might want to find your Garden for the Sorcerer matchup. You might want to find the Mortuary, etc. Like your avatar is rarely mobile. And the ones that are mobile are not interested in Guards. Like you won't play Guards in a Battle Mage. You won't play Guards in you could play in Persecutor or some control version, but it's pretty fringe. And so the combination of all these things makes me think I don't want Guards anymore. Like if you want tokens, you have Militia or play a bunch of villages, etc. But Guards, not doing it for me anymore.
I agree 100% with everything you just said, but also question to you is, was there ever a deck besides Archimago that played really Guards?
Yeah, Geomancer are playing Guards. Generally with the rise of Earth decks, I think maybe Kyle's Ramp Sorcerer plays Guards.
Really?
It's kind of like a big Earth card, if you will, but it's so risky for me in the current meta that I wouldn't recommend it. Also, people have Murder of Crows in their collection pretty often. Yeah. It's not worth it. Not at 6 mana, 4 or 5 maybe. But and if you ever want to learn how to cast Guards with 5 mana, you can go and ask Felix.
If true, there is a video of me playing a Battle Mage player but I just got 5 tokens out of it. I think that was a fair trade.
It was a discount. Yeah. You should have cast it for 6 and gotten 6 dudes. You said, hey, this is the bro discount. I'm doing 5.
Lord of Lies doing its thing. Yeah. But I was about to say with Guards, it's if you're into horror movies and you like nail biters, you cast a Guard and just see how it goes, because I think you'd be biting your nails until you see what your opponent does if he either has the King of the Realm or the Aino.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Is that your last card then?
Yeah, my last one, and I'm definitely sure. Well, I get a lot of hate for this one because there are people who love it.
Imagine if we have the same one, because mine is pretty spicy, I think.
Impossible.
Okay.
Impossible. You would just, yeah, I think your nature will not allow you to do so. It's the Avatar of Air.
Oh.
What?
I didn't realize we could do avatars.
It's a card, right?
You think it's overplayed?
I think it's overplayed. I think it is. Well, first of all, let's do the feedback sandwich, as we learned. Start with something positive, bring the negative in later. Well, the positive of Avatar of Air is it's always able to win a game. I think it's not like if you play Avatar of Air, it is not really a matchup where I think it is unwinnable for you. You have some very cool ceiling and some very cool effects with Avatar of Air, but I think consistency is what strikes this Avatar the most in terms of why you just have such a hard time being at the top of the tables consistently with it if you just play Avatar of Air, because you're just not going to manage to do it every single time.
I could see that.
Yeah. But we still see like there's like some hardcore. Shout out to Casey Astral on the Discord, or like user Zero Paul. He's playing nothing but Avatar of Air, because they like it so much, and I have like nothing but respect for that. But I think if you do so, you also buy the fact that you maybe have a hard time making very good numbers.
I disagree with that. I lost to an AOA today, and yeah, I think it's just it's very powerful.
Yeah, it's like I'm not saying like if I'm playing an Avatar of Air player, it's not like an easy matchup or anything, but it's just I just if I would play it like the only reason I don't like playing it because I just know that sometimes that just doesn't really click, and it just like the way you draw your stuff, the way your opponent draws your stuff, and you have like maybe I'm just doing it wrong, I don't know, but I feel like sometimes you don't have as much agency over the games as you have compared to for like Ashimago, where you have like a little bit of
you
can like navigate the game in a certain way where you have like more outs or better draws in the late game. And Avatar of Air just something that just like falls apart because you just don't have it, or your opponent just have it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I disagree. That's fine because you're going to disagree with my last one. Are you ready? Are you ready? My last one is Violin.
Yes.
I think Violin is overplayed. I think the 2 damage these days is not doing enough.
What was the last video of us doing videos because nobody's clicking stuff anymore?
It's gonna be the thumbnail. Look, it's gonna be the thumbnail. You gotta bring the clicks in.
All right. Yeah.
I think the best case for Violin these days is like you have to combine it with something else. It's like, oh, Violin plus kobolds, or Violin plus Koliki, or 2 Violins. It's like, why are we forcing ourselves to play 2 drops that we don't even want to play on 2? Okay, it'll catch a leprechaun. You'll give your opponent a sight. It's like, it's not even that good. I still think it deserves to be played, but I see way too many deck lists where it's a 4-off, and I'm like, no, that's too weak.
Right.
You could have it 2. Yeah. It's like a nice little curve filler. Maybe on 5 you'll go kobolds and Vilimp, but you don't need 4. And some decks just don't need them at all. It's fine to not play 2 drops, guys. It's totally fine. It's like we're not in like Magic where you have to fill the curve. Just don't play bad 2 drops. I'm not saying Violent is bad, but
some people want to win games, Joffrey, and they like to play stuff early on in the game.
So kobolds and Koriki I can see because they combine with Gift of the Serpent, but Violent doesn't. And so if you're gonna play like a Rasputin package, okay, go to 3 Violets, go crazy. Not 4, 3. I insist. I think there's very few decks that should play 4 Violets, and there's way too many out there that should play 4. That's my hot take.
I can buy this one because I think it won't get better from there. But I'm buying your free Wylums. No, but honestly, like I agree that I don't think the first thing that I cut from my wet decks when I'm trying to make room is the 4th Wylum, just because for all the reasons that you just said, you mostly don't need that many. It's also they're not so many 2-drops in other colors that you can get rid of Wylum that are being played outside of Earth. And even like Earth has the best 2-drop minions with Kettle Top and all the good stuff. Even like Wylumping them is not that amazing. We have wards out there making it much harder to get good value out of Wylump, but I think you like on paper it seems like Wylump lost so much edge in the game, but every time I played, I still find like a way to make it work for me. Like in the Death Speaker, it's your opponent has out of nowhere, like your Earthquake gets
Okay.
finisher because
So an Imposter and Death Speaker, you can play 3.
Yeah,
No, not 4. 3. 3 is the max. I think you should never play 4 Wylums. That might be a hot take, but I think you should never play 4 Wylums.
Yeah.
You can play 3 if you're Imposter or Death Speaker. You have a bit of extra value. If you're Mono Fire, you can play 3. But if you're double color, I think the reason why Wylum lost a lot of value in my like perception of it, I don't think we play as many deserts as we used to, because first of all, like
Desert and Tawny.
yeah, exactly, right? So like we used to be able to go to like 3, 4, even 5 damage by a combination of like Vylem, Kobold, Kaliki, Deserts, Tawny, and there's very few like decks that play tons of deserts. The main archetype, if I tell you Mono Fire, the main archetype you'll think about is probably Pathfinder, and so obviously you can't play a full playset of each deserts.
Yep.
There's no more Tawny, and so that Vylem has to do a lot of the work on its own. Like it can't get to a 4-power minion as easily as it did before, or even 3. You have to combine it with something else, and like the amount of time I'll like win a game and my opponent shows me his hand and it's like 2 Vylems. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't do anything right now. Like,
yeah,
hate that.
Well, it definitely lost a lot of power for all the reasons you just said. I agree. I still think you kind of want to have 2-drops in your deck. They pair very nicely with your curve. Sometimes it's also not the end of the world if you just, especially if you're on Pathfinder and you have a little bit of extra cards anyways, you just put a Pathfinder, a Wylum down turn 2, and if it gets to stump your opponent once or twice, it may as well get back in, or just a jump. That's okay. It's okay. I'm currently running.
This is my face of disapproval.
Because okay. Currently running Swift Scout because I'm thinking of like.
That's even worse. You get hit by Inquisition. Oh my! Stop playing bad 2-drops. It's okay not to have 2-drops. Play a Pit Vipers, and this is safe.
Well, I do play it in an assorted animal deck. I have a one-off Pit Viper from time to time.
Well, I'll prefer a Pit Viper. You know what? That's it. I think on that note, I might get a lot of flack for this one. I'm ready for it. Look.
Well, dude, I'm in front of you with the Avatar of Air. I might need to change my name and everything, but
let's see. You know what? Like we had a little contest between Tabula Rasa and what was your crap card? Crochet's Egg.
What? Don't ever call it that again.
And now we're gonna have an inverse contest. It's not gonna be like who gets the most support. It's who gets the most hate between the Vylem hater and the Avatar of Air hate. And yeah, let us know in the comments. That's gonna be the end of the video for today. We'll see you next week. See you around.